What's up guys, Stobbie here with a quick little build overview video of my professional soldiers build that I've been mentioning so far in my stream. Now this is an offline campaign with the peasant militia, and the essential idea behind the professional soldier, or footman as I happen to call them here, I wanted to see whether I could get a build that would overcome some of the inherent weaknesses of the peasant militia, being that you can only hire lowborn, so you struggle to get some of the high tier guys. And in my previous playthrough I found that these guys, the peasants that is, were not ideally suited to, in most occasions, not that suited to being two-handed weapon users. So I wanted to see what it would be like if you could have an entire front line, and bear in mind normally this would be 9 up front and 7 at the back, but I recently had a death. But anyway, the idea is that all of the frontline guys would be absolutely identical. All of them would have these following perks at level 11. Fast adaptation, to make sure that they can always hit the enemies even through a shield wall. They'll just keep swinging. Gifted just for the stats. Quick hands is particularly important because with the hammer mastery and the cleaver mastery, you need to be able to quick hands between a hammer to start when the target has armor, and then you quick hands to a cleaver when the enemy doesn't have armor. The idea being I always wanted to have a weapon to hand that would be ideal against, or rather the best, against an armored target and then an unarmored target. And of course, by taking hammer for the armor destruction, it's the best for armor destruction, and the cleaver for unarmored because it's some of the highest base damage. But you get the usefulness of a whip, both for applying bleeds, but also for disarming enemies, rather than using a two-handed mace to stun, which I can't do in this build. And overall, I gotta say, so one other thing to mention, that even though I wanted to give everybody hammer and cleaver, that would have meant that the guys on the outside flank would have been left without underdogs. So everybody in the center of the formation, the vanguard if you will, has this build, but the two guys on the flank just forego hammer mastery, take underdog. And so overall, I'm not crazy about this build for a couple of reasons, which I'll go over. Just get into a game here. I mean, let's start with the good first. So the good parts about this build is it does just what it says on the tin, if you will. It's incredible against armored targets. The hammers let you do excellent armor damage against orc warriors, and then once you get through their armor, you do chop through the enemies really, really quickly with your cleavers. Oh, that was lucky. The cleavers are also amazing, as you might imagine, against unhold, which is pretty important. And the cleavers are just amazing for decapitating zombies as well. And using the whips to disarm high danger targets is absolutely amazing. So those are the good points. The downsides is that you have to keep opening the inventory and manually switching weapons, sometimes for every single brother between attacks. And you have 9 brothers on the front line, each of them making 2 attacks, so potentially 18 times a turn you have to open the inventory, click on the alternate weapon, and then go out again. So it just gets a little bit dreary, frankly. What I'm doing here, see, I'm talking and not concentrating. So maybe if there was a mod made just to be able to allow you to press a button to switch, hot switch if you will, between primary and secondary weapon, that might be a little bit easier. So that's the downsides. But one thing that struck me was that my guys on the outside flanks who only have cleaver mastery, now bear in mind especially this was because I was able to get these kopeshes off of some vampires, and obviously the kopeshes don't do anything like the armor damage of the warhammers. The kopesh is in the range of 40 to 60, whereas the warhammer is 60 to 90. That's even without using destroy armor. The kopeshes are pretty damn good at destroying armor. So if you just tweak the build a little bit by not taking hammer mastery and only taking cleaver mastery, you get probably the most usefulness. You get access to the whips, which are, as you are going to see here now, whips are the single best weapon for taking care of these ghosts. But the whip allows you to anti-armor with the kopesh, anti-unarmored targets with the regular war cleaver, and disarm with the whip. So my next test is going to be pretty much the same, but instead of taking hammer mastery, we're only going to take cleaver mastery. That's going to free up another perk. Most likely it'll be steel brow, because most of these peasants generally tend to have to wear light armor, and one shot to the head and then your light armor wearing lad is in a lot of trouble. So yeah, all things considered, my professional soldier build, not that great, and I really miss the ability to be able to use two-handed weapons. Just that enormous burst of damage and the AoE swing of the two-handed weapons it just cannot be beaten. So like I said, actually let me just show what I'm talking about, having to switch between weapons all the time. Whip these ghosts real quick. I suspect that if I'm going to go for a quote-unquote professional soldier build like this, with the perks, I'm only going to take Cleaver Mastery, because like I said, Khopesh for armor, Military Cleaver for unarmored, and then Whip for disarming and hitting Geists. But the other thing I want to try is Axe Mastery, because if you're trying to think to yourself what weapon is the best of both worlds between armor destruction and high base damage for unarmored targets, you could well make the argument that it is the axe. And of course the axe gives you the shield destruction usefulness. So I'm going to grind that sort of build a little bit offline and then do an overview for that. I don't think I need to do another level up and build just for Cleaver Mastery. I think that's probably the way to go. So I hope you guys find this interesting. I'm not crazy about this build, but really this was just all about coming up with a theory and testing it out and seeing how useful it is. As it happens, it wasn't that useful, but hey, knowledge gained, right? Thanks for watching, friends. I'm Stobbie on frontline. Please do check out my other playthroughs on the YouTube, and I've got more episodes of my guide to Battle Brothers coming soon, so please do check that out. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.